like any other successful person, it's not just all unicorns and rainbow. And man, he's doing great over there. There's real hard stuff because once you achieve a certain level of success, there might be some expectation to maintain or to continue more, more, more. And you had some stuff that you had to deal with, and it was heavy. And just thank you for sharing. And to the
Hmm.
level that we may, I'd love to ask, what you did uncover and how
Yeah.
you've progressed in dealing with it so far, Mike.
Well, I think the one thing in that, Matt, is that I was fine. Like though you talked about reaching heights and having successes. I mean, I had by that time I'd written 5 books, 8 books, and I've had a illustrious career in different things, and I've had lots of successes, and so you tend to convince yourself, having never really dealt with things, that somehow you're okay. And this is, I'll talk about this later in the conversation, I'm sure. And this is something that I'm really a staunch advocate of now, and that is about this disclosure. And so at 11 and a half, I was sexually abused. And so there's this elephant in the room in my life. And forever I live with that. For my teen years, no recollection, blocked out. And then in my adult years, it seemed to be there every single day. And it's subtle. You see something in the news, someone's abused, it's always, yeah, that was me as well. And it's always present. However, you're not conscious of the damage that was done to your psyche at the moment of trauma, how you responded to that extremely negative situation, that life threatening, that at least my mind perceived at that moment. It may very well have been, who knows? And so you live a life going, well, yeah, that's in my past, but I I survived, and I'm a success. So, you know, I'm a success story. Maybe someday I'll talk about it, but I never wanted to, and I never did. And so what you end up doing is living with a secret that's festering in you that no one knows. And every time there's a moment, of negativity in your life, that starts to rise up a bit because no one knows, no one understands, and you don't want to share, and you don't want to say, but you don't understand. This is what really is going on with me, and because for fear that your career will be at risk, someone will view you as weak. Just there's a myriad of reasons why men are not disclosing, and I wasn't any different. And so here we are, 30 years after I started to think about it, and 40 years after the incident. The secret decided today's the day. It's time to try to kill Mike. Kill me, kill the body, kill the organism, or
Okay.
make him deal with it. And so I decided to deal with it. And I sought, first of all, disclosure and sharing and love and comfort in my family. And they were amazing. So, check one. All the risks you perceive about sharing these horrific things about your life with the people who love you. Um, the fear you had at the beginning, completely useless fear. They loved me more, and they accepted me more, and they were more empathetic than I could ever understand. And so, step one, that risk was poorly perceived on my part. Step two, treatment is going to be really crazy, and I'll have to confess all my sins. And I don't know how I'm possibly ever going to go through some therapy because it's unknown to me.
Yeah.
Um, Reached out, found the right person, and started therapy. And treatment was simple. It was straightforward. It was something that I could easily get my head around and didn't hurt. I didn't have to confess every sin I've ever done. I wasn't stepping in. I had to deal with the trauma, with the issue, with the one thing, right? And we did that. And it was extraordinarily effective. And then the next was beginning to live with that and knowing that comfortably I'll be fine and beginning to share. And you don't have to share with everybody. I chose to begin to do that because I was compelled by how incredibly effective my treatment was. And in that process, suddenly your energy shifts and everything's better. And it's not the same journey for everyone. I know there's a duration effect to how trauma affects people, and it's not an overnight miracle. But for me, it felt like that.
Mm.
And so where I launched from is as if I just was able to reset an entire life. Not that nothing in between was important, because it really was critical, but I could take that optimistic, young, loving, trusting kid at 11 and kind of get this emotional time travel to, my 51 and a half year old self. And it was almost like beginning again. Um, and just like I mentioned earlier, that podcasting is a joy, isn't it? It's fun,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And the people we get to meet, and occasionally from time to time we just go, oh my gosh, that was one of the best conversations. I can't believe that person agreed to join me on this show, right? Like you
Exactly.
get that moment.
Mhm.
And I spent a lifetime pushing. It was the pillar of the community that pushed me away. And he was the charismatic leading person, head of the church, head of the clubs, head of the choir, head of, everything. And he was the charismatic leader, the ex-Army Air Force veteran, decorated pilot, World War II, who was the abuser of all the boys that were around at the time for a couple of generations. And this man, who everyone trusted, was the person who was betraying their trust. So, one of the deepest hardwiring subconscious things of my life was after that moment. And I was never aware of this. Was that you can't trust good men.
Mm.
And when we talk about where we are today as podcasters or anywhere in life, and we think about the quality of humans that we're able to attract to whatever it is that we're doing, and sometimes we scratch our heads and wonder, holy cow, I can't believe I'm in the same room or the same conversation. It's so amazing.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout my life, professional career, I never got to have that experience. Um, what would happen is I would pick and select working with flawed men. And the good men, somehow I repelled, I kept out of the room. I don't know, it was just an energy. And for years and years and years, I was just not sure if I could ever stop repeating this pattern of being close to a flawed man when it hits the fan and things go wrong and I have to take business loss, move on, or whatever, right? I always had to restart. I go to the end of this treatment process, and suddenly I have this energy that changes. You even talked about it. You said the joy is, the way you have experienced me already in just the few minutes that we've spent together, is a way that no one ever experienced me prior to a year, the years prior to last year, say at this time,
Mm.
because this is when my healing journey kind of was done in a way, in part of it. And that is amazing to me. First of all, it's unbelievable. But where the people that come into my life, the energy that's out there, the relaxed nature of how I am today versus any other time in my life prior, before I was 11 and a half years old,
Mm-hmm.
until before I was 11 and a half, was really never like this.
Mm.
And it wasn't something that you could just see and say, "Oh yeah, that guy, something about him." There was always something, but it wasn't obvious. I mean, I was gregarious. I'm a friendly guy, and lots of people that I like and I'm social with. But
Mm-hmm.
it's next level different now than it has ever been,
Mm.
and it's I have all kinds of ways of explaining it, but it's just a different. It's profoundly different today than it was, you know, before that moment of healing.
Well, it feels like from the very moment that we connected, I could just feel that it's easy for me to speak with you. It's easy to be around you. You're inviting. You make others feel comfortable being around you, and it saddens me to hear that not everyone got to experience that before 50. Because it's really easy. It's already impactful to be around you now. And I
Mm.
wonder now. And I know that you're involved and you lead a group, men worth call help me with this, men worth meeting, and
That's right.
you are with other men, and you talk a little bit about this group and kind of your vision, your purpose behind it, because in my experience, in only a few minutes now, you're worth meeting, and being around you is actually uplifting me. So talk a little bit about your group, please. Love to hear it.
Yeah, on the back of what I call the Unlimited Worth Project. So I just
Yep.
the big thing for me was I felt worthless and I felt limited in my life because of these subconscious things that were going on, right?
Okay.
So I felt at the other side of my journey of treatment and therapy that I was unlimited, and I understood my worth at that point. And to take that further, so we talked about a podcast, and I do have the book, and part of the biggest revelation I had in this is um, I could have really dealt with this at age 30, 20, 40.
Okay.
Any other time other than the crisis where I decided that suicide was on the table. Like that could have been done. However, I had never at any point, number one, didn't understand how profoundly connected trauma at a childhood or a developmental brain is to everything you do in life until you fix it, if you will. And I use that word simply, but it's not that simple. But I'll use that
Okay.
term until you fix it or resolve it. It's going to be it's wired in there, and it's not going to unwire until you deal with it. Secondly, all the risks I ever perceived of sharing my secret about what was really part of the fabric of who I was, um, all those risks were wrong. And
Mm.
a simple, comfortable environment. I was in business world. I was in a
Mhm.
male dominated, typically patriarchal institutional culture where you don't talk about your feelings, except there's a guy over there doing coke. There's a person abusing his wife. He's blowing up like it's constant and obvious that people are having challenges. Yet I was in a culture where suck it up, drive forward, you don't talk about this stuff, especially not at work,
Yep.
and you move on, right? And among so many other things that we're told and inbred into us as a man. And so I kept it quiet. And what I
Mm.
learned is a simple conversation that allows a man to have the space to speak openly about the struggles that they have and give them the space to share removes the isolation, begins to unwind that self talk, the things that we have going on in our brains. We begin to have to make sense of them because now we have to explain them to others. When we perceive that that risk is too great, we just keep it all spinning around in our brains. When we're able to process it and share with others who are accepting and it's in a comfortable, safe environment, we're then able to kind of work through this stuff. And all you need is another person in the room saying, my knee hurt, so I saw my doctor, right? My mind wasn't working, so I saw a doctor or a therapist, and we solved it. And
Mm.
it would take that conversation, and a man will go, yeah, maybe I'll try that out. I mean, shoot, we try out, people are trying out ice baths, they're trying out food, diet, like all
Absolutely.
kinds of
Yeah.
crazy stuff to try
Mhm.
to make themselves well, doing
Mhm.
everything they can to avoid having a straight conversation about the things that really bother them with the person who can help. Like we do everything we can to avoid that moment. And all I want to say is I want to create space for men who are in leadership, who no one really cares on a day to day how they're feeling, right? The leaders of business, of industry, sport, entertainment, these
Mhm.
leaders at the top rung, right? They're the people below them. You know what they care about? They care about the decisions they make don't ruin their lives, right? But the
Yes.
leaders have no comfortable space to talk about the things that they're challenged with. And so they build buffers and they build perimeters. And what I hope is through Men Worth Meeting, which is this monthly men's group that I've got in person today, because I've always been dying since the pandemic started to get people right in front of humans, and an online group North America wide that I'm launching in January of
Okay.
2023, right? So that's the beginning of 2023 is when Men Worth Meeting starts,
Awesome.
online for anyone in North America. And I know we'll
Mm.
probably be a little bit later than that. It's all good. I didn't mean to timestamp this. But at the same time, the whole premise is not go out into the forest and beat drums and get in touch with our hyper masculine side, or find places where we can knit and be really like sensitive and talk about pressing flowers and hug and kiss. Like,
Mhm.
I'm not an extreme fellow. I'm a person dead set on bringing the mass, the middle, to a common ground. And when we're talking about leaders, our comfort is sitting around a table, sitting around a boardroom table, sitting around a dinner table, breaking bread, having conversations that are meaningful. Those conversations, Matt, between 10 at night and 2 a.m. For some, it's
Sure
over
do.
when the next bottle of wine goes and you're with a great group of people, and it's just, you think that was a magical time. I wish I could put those people in a room. It's kind of self indulgent, this Men Worth Meeting. I just want to meet amazing men who can't have these conversations openly with anyone else. And it's not there to get people a support group, but we are there to support and provide a network. It's not a
Mhm.
self help group, but you're going to get self-help tools.
Mhm.
So it's part
Mhm.
business group, part all of this. And really what it's about is just sharing ideas, discussions about current affairs, but it's about ideas and creating an opening that, maybe sometimes what we do in life has some connection to something that we experienced in life that wasn't great.
I
And if we can just crack that open just a little bit, and
Mhm.
do that regularly, it's probably the cheapest way, the most inexpensive way to prevent male mortality than anything out there. Male
Mm.
suicide is the eighth most common reason for death in North America.
Wow.
And the estimate is around 370,000 men are killing themselves more than women. It's a 4 to 1 ratio. It's 4 out of 5 suicides in 30 to 60 are men. And and then you think of what are the other reasons men are dying? Cardiovascular disease, heart disease, pulmonary, pulmonary diseases, cancer, systemic diseases, right? And what are some of the known factors that cause that? Depression, stress,
Mhm.
anxiety,
Mhm.
poor diet, poor nutrition, right?
Mhm.
Inactivity, poor sleep. Like, all of a sudden you go, well, when I'm feeling mentally unwell, all of those things go by the wayside. And so
Mhm.
now I've
Absolutely.
amped up my potential for getting a heart attack or cardiovascular disease or cancer.
Mhm.
So if you really want to flip this entire system on its head, if we had strong mental health for men, and one of
Mhm.
the cheapest avenues is to have a conversation where men just share information with each other regularly, a social group, um, doesn't that seem sublimely preferable to every other possibility?
Mhm.
Why can't we just save men's lives that way? And the profound effect that a good, healthy male has on society, in terms of their ability to pass on to the next generation and beyond, to change culture, to change institution, and then to get out of the way and enhance women's lives, right?
Mhm.
If we want real equity or equality, we just need to be out of the way. But we can't be out of the way when we're so fearful, when we're acting with fear all the time and changing the institutions on everybody. So, good, healthy, mentally well men are really a key component to a good society. I mean, we're one of the biggest challenges on society. So why don't we fix that?